How complicated is it to replace this electronic power steering gear on this Toyota Tacoma?
Let's begin by removing the front two tires and then rotating the steering shaft so the 12mm bolt is easy to access. Remove the bolt and then straighten out the wheel and lock the steering wheel in place by using a seatbelt. Now disconnect the negative battery terminal and remove the bottom splash shield. Loosen both lock nuts and then remove the cotter pin on both sides. Now remove the 22mm nut and then separate the tie rod end from the knuckle. Once that's separated, you will need to disconnect the steering shaft from the gear assembly. Disconnect the electronic connector from the steering shaft assembly and remove the two 10mm bolts to separate the harness. Remove both of the outer tie rod ends and then locate the 3 bolts that are holding the steering gear into place. Remove all 3 bolts that are holding the gear in place and then slowly lower it down. Be very careful because it is very heavy. Now either transfer over the lock nut or use a new one and thread it onto the inner tie rod. Now slowly install the rack back into place. This will require a little bit of patience as the rack is very heavy and awkwardly shaped, making the installation a little bit hard. Once you lined it up, install the 3 bolts and tighten them down. Install the steering shaft. I like to use a little bit of hammer and tapping it on the shaft as the vibrations would allow it to slide downwards. Now install the connector, outer tie rod end, and then install it into the knuckle and tighten down. Make sure to use a new cotter pin when installing it. Disconnect the seatbelt, line up the shaft, and install and tighten the bolt. But don't be like me and transfer over this harness onto the new rack. Now install the splash shield, install and tighten the tire, connect the battery, and perform an alignment. But since this is an electronic power steering rack, you will need to register and calibrate it to the vehicle. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.